One city was reduced to ash, but an empire rose to strike back. The year was 844, and the city of Seville became the unexpected arena where the Vikings collided with the Islamic world for the very first time, discovering the hard way that not all enemies crumble before fire and steel. What started as a simple raid for plunder quickly spiraled into a desperate fight for survival. From the smoking ruins of Seville, a new maritime power was born on the seas of Al-Andalus. In the middle of the 9th century, two distinct worlds were on a collision course. One was forged in the freezing fjords of Scandinavia. The other was rooted in the sun-drenched orchards of Al-Andalus. On one side were the Vikings, raiders and traders whose longships had already carved paths of destruction across the rivers of Francia. On the other stood the Emirate of Cordoba, a flourishing state under the Umayyad dynasty, wealthy, proud, and steeped in the deep traditions of the Caliphate. By the 830s, Viking aggression in the North Sea had intensified. They had struck Rouen, Hamburg, and even Paris, forcing Frankish rulers to pay tribute just to survive. These easy victories emboldened them to sail further south, seeking rich lands that lay undefended. Rumors drifted north, tales of the fertile valleys of Iberia, of silver coins minted in Cordoba, and of markets overflowing with silk, perfume, and grain. To men who valued prestige as much as plunder, Al-Andalus became the ultimate frontier. The Vikings of the Western Seas, likely a coalition of Danes and Norwegians, prepared for a campaign unlike any other. Their longships were engineering marvels built for speed and surprise, with shallow drafts designed to slip up rivers where no enemy expected them. The crews were battle-hardened, trained to fight with equal ferocity, on land or water. Meanwhile, in 844, Al-Andalus shined as one of the brightest jewels of the Islamic world. Abd al-Rahman II, the Emir of Cordoba, ruled over a realm famous for its learning, agriculture, and trade. However, prosperity had bred complacency. The Iberian coasts were open, guarded only by small garrisons. The Guadalquivir River wound lazily through olive groves and quiet villages, its waters reflecting the towers of Seville, a city that was rich but dangerously vulnerable. The Emirate's military strength was focused inland, relying on cavalry drawn from Arab and Berber nobles who had little experience repelling seaborne invaders. Abd al-Rahman II was not blind to the threat. Reports of Viking raids in the north had reached his court. He ordered reforms to strengthen coastal defenses and muster militias, but time was not on his side. When the Viking fleet appeared off the coast in September 844, these precautions proved far too little, too late. Hundreds of longships darkened the horizon, slipping into the Guadalquivir like a blade drawn into the heart of Al-Andalus. In late September, the first ships glided silently up the river. Riverbanks that usually echoed with the songs of farmers now trembled under the creak of oars. Villages fell first, burned and looted, their inhabitants fleeing in terror toward the interior. By October, the fleet surged toward its true prize, Seville. At dawn, they struck. The city, caught unprepared, had no stone walls strong enough to resist the assault. Viking warriors stormed the gates, axes and swords flashing in the sun as panic crumbled the defense. For 7 days, Seville endured absolute terror. Houses burned, markets were stripped, and the streets ran red. Yet, amidst the destruction, one symbol stood firm: the Great Mosque of Seville. Chronicles recall how the defenders held out in desperate resistance, turning the sacred site into a fortress. Still, the city fell, its wealth pillaged and its people enslaved. But the news of Seville's fall reached Córdoba. Abd al-Rahman II could not let this stand. Furious, he summoned his armies. He appointed his general, Muhammad ibn Rustam, to lead the counterattack. Ibn Rustam marshaled cavalry, militias, and archers, driving them south toward the river, with a clear message from the emir: Al-Andalus would not bow to northern raiders. The decisive clash took place on the Guadalquivir itself. Viking ships, heavy with plunder, sailed upriver with confidence, but the Andalusians were waiting. From the banks, volleys of arrows rained down. Fire ships were launched into the current, their decks ablaze, crashing into the Viking hulls. The longships, so effective in open water, became death traps as crews were caught between riverbanks swarming with soldiers and waters filled with flames. Muhammad ibn Rustam's tactics combined discipline with fury. Andalusian cavalry cut off Viking landing parties while archers riddled their ranks. The chronicles speak of a slaughter. Over 500 Vikings were cut down in the fighting, and 30 ships were destroyed. Panic spread among the raiders as their formations collapsed. Those captured faced no mercy. Nearly 400 were taken prisoner and paraded through Córdoba as symbols of humiliation. The Vikings who survived fled back to the open sea, their dreams of easy conquest shattered. For the first time, the Northmen had met a power that struck back with equal ferocity. The Viking defeat in 844 was decisive. While raids continued in later years, the scale of the disaster at Seville ensured they would never again strike Al-Andalus with such confidence. Abd al-Rahman II seized the moment to transform his realm's defenses, ordering the construction of a permanent fleet. This was the first true navy of Al-Andalus, stationed to patrol the coasts and guard the river approaches. Coastal fortresses were reinforced, watchtowers rose along the cliffs, and Seville itself was rebuilt stronger than before. The emir also sent a grim message of vengeance. The Vikings captured were executed in public, a warning to all who might test the strength of Córdoba. What began as a raid ended as a catalyst for reform, turning the emirate into a maritime power. The clash of 844 stands as the first and perhaps most dramatic meeting of Vikings and Islam, a battle where Seville burned but Andalusia endured.